Action.
Action. Hi. Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
Jenny.
Hi, Fred. This is Fred. And yeah, we're just going to have a quick chat about what his story is and his frustrations with his pain. And he's going to walk us through so his experience so that if any of you who are listening who have pain know that there's a happy ending.
Yes, there is. Okay, Jenny. So my name is Fred, and about 5 years ago, I started experiencing pain in my groin area, the hip flexors, and it was getting pretty bad to the point that I went to see my doctor. And my doctor looked at me, and at that time, I didn't know very much about the body. I mean, I was into athletics and everything, but I didn't know anything really about how the body worked. And he basically told me, looked at me and said, Fred, I'm pretty sure you've got problems with your discs. And I was kind of surprised because I didn't know the discs in your back would cause groin pain. I mean, I didn't know anything. So he sent me for an MRI. And at the time, I was 60 years old, or 62, sorry. I was 62 years old. And it's not unusual for somebody my age for have disc deterioration. I didn't know that at the time, but as I started reading, I realized that. Well, sure enough, he sent me for an MRI, and it came back and it said that I had some discs that were deteriorating. And it just really means is it's losing its viscosity in the disc, so the absorption isn't as good. But he said for sure, he absolutely guaranteed me that that was the problem.
Mhm.
And at that time, I didn't know any better. So I went to a chiropractor because I thought I had problems with my spine. Well, after I saw the chiropractor, and he started treating me, I started doing some exercises. I stretched my hamstrings. I was doing some core training, some planks. It didn't get any better. It actually got worse. The pain moved from my groin, and now it was in the back of my legs, down the side of my leg, into my feet. It felt like my feet were almost numb.
Oh.
So it was getting worse. Go back to my doctor. He says it's your discs. Wouldn't change his diagnosis. And so I went back and saw another chiropractor and another physio. And all these people, in the end, I wound up seeing in total, believe it or not, about 20 different people, doctors. I went to see a surgeon, for surgery. I was considering surgery because the pain was getting worse. This went on for about 3.5 years, and basically I became bedridden. I was almost dysfunctional at one point. It was so painful for me to sit, for me to walk. Standing was just horrifying. And I was an avid golfer. I was a coach in Special Olympics. My oldest son is special needs. I was very active, and all of a sudden, from a world of that to my bedroom, and I couldn't do anything, and I couldn't help out at home. It was horrible. My life just seemed to have been taken away from me. And the worst thing about it was I've gone to see so many people and nobody could help me. And I spent a lot of money, I didn't care, but nobody could help me. And I couldn't understand it. To me, everybody was telling me it's your discs or it's or a nerve pinch or somebody one of them told me I had arthritis in my back. And they guaranteed me that's what was wrong because the MRI showed it. And then I finally, about 3.5 years ago, I saw a physio. This was like I got so tired of it, but I just kept going. I didn't want this pain to keep my life from enjoying it. So I never stopped going to these people, even though they didn't help me, because I thought somebody has to find the right answer. Just can't be. It's just like there's a right answer, and that's what drove me. It's like
Right.
if you give up and you think I have to accept the pain. And some of them actually said, you said, Fred, you're going to have to learn to live with some pain. And I
Mm.
said to myself, no, whatever caused this can be corrected because whatever I did to cause it can be re-engineered and I can fix myself. That's what was my thinking, and that's what drove me,
Mhm.
even though it seemed almost hopeless. And finally, I met this young physio. His name is Slava, and I met him and he kind of said that my glutes were weak. And I knew my glutes were weak. Somebody had told me that. But I never thought at that time that weak glutes could cause this kind of pain. Well, it turned out that that's what it was. It was one big freaking muscle that, okay, I can say that. It was one muscle in your butt that basically
That's a
controls your pelvis. And of course, if your pelvis is out of whack, it's going to shift the muscles and your legs are going to feel it all the way down to my toes. It was hard to believe.
right.
So he gave me this exercise to do. Or he gave me several. He gave me a lot of glute exercises to do. But one of them was actually the one that told me I was on the right track. Because the first time I did it, and that's that hip extension, I did it the first time, and I didn't know to what extent I should do it. Well, I did it a little bit too much. And
Right.
about 2 hours later, I couldn't even move. And I
Mm,
thought, I could hardly move. So I said to myself, this isn't right. I've been doing exercise all my life, and I never felt anything. Like I didn't even get DOMS when I did exercise because I always kind of figured I wasn't overdoing it. This time I did it, like I say, I did it pretty lightly. Anyways, this kind of told me that I was on the right track, even though it was terrible to the next couple of days, it felt slightly better. So I started doing it, but it was taking such a long time. Every time I did it, it just seemed to be it seemed like I was overdoing it. And the results were, I knew I was on the right track, but I had done it for about 6 months and it just seemed like 6 months and it's going like a turtle. So that's when I decided I would have it checked again by somebody else. And Jenny, that's when I found you. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, this sounds like somebody who will be able to check whether my muscles are still working. And the great thing about you, Jenny, was you asked me to come in there and you didn't assess me for 10 minutes. You assessed me for an hour and a half. You were thorough. You checked everything because this was still, even though I thought I knew what was wrong, I had to make sure I was right. I didn't want to keep doing this and find out I'm on the wrong track after all this time.
Yeah.
And what you showed me was that overdoing the exercise actually was turning the muscle off. And I didn't know anything that I didn't know muscles could go off. That's probably what actually caused the problem to begin with, is that my muscle had shut down. I think I pulled a muscle when I was playing baseball when I was 25, and it just probably never recovered. And it just eventually just said, I don't want to work anymore. So muscles don't work sometimes. They just stop. They don't tell you they stop. There's no message. They just stop.
Until there's
And
pain.
that's
That's the
right.
message.
And that's really what you have to understand.
Right.
First of all, I think there's two things here and okay, so let me finish the story. The story is I've been doing this exercise. There's just one exercise that I do now. And of course, now I've added ankle weights and I can do a lot more. And my range of motion now is better than when I was 30 years old. I can turn, my walking feels like I'm floating. And now I realize, no, what I realized before when I was walking, I probably wasn't even using those muscles because now, and I remember playing basketball once and I couldn't jump. When I used to jump like crazy, when I was younger, and now I could hardly get off the ground. Those were the signs that I didn't have any power in my glutes, but I didn't know.
Right.
And now I can feel it. I feel as good as I did when I was in my 30s. And I'm looking forward to my life now because I love to golf. I
Yeah.
love activities. And now I know I can do it when 3 years ago I thought it was going to be almost impossible. So it's a good ending, but it's a bad story because as good as you are, Jenny, there's just no way I should have even had to see you, if you know what I mean. If I seen you at the beginning, I guess my point is there should be more Jennys in the world. I shouldn't have to wait to go through 20 people to
Uh-huh.
find a Jenny.
You,
So it's good that you know this training, but honestly, a lot of people should know this.
yeah.
And so that's the message I'm trying to tell you. There's two messages. First, you should understand that when you go and see one of these clinicians, don't think they know everything because they definitely don't, or they would have been able to fix me. Number two, you have to understand that your muscles can turn off and they can cause havoc with your body. And it's 99%, or I shouldn't say 99, but there's a great percentage that that's what your problem is. Your discs could be a problem, but if you look at statistics, a lot of people have problems with their discs. A lot of people have a problem with their spine. It doesn't cause the problem in a majority of situations, because if you had spinal problems, the pain would be sharp and like sciatica or really severe shocking pain. The difference with this is it's just as painful, but it's the muscles that are telling your brain, I can't do this anymore. I don't have anything.
Yeah.
That's the message you need to understand. If you can balance your muscles, figure out which ones aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Jenny is really good at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you can at least eliminate that it's not your muscles. And in a majority of cases, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, the results are just, they're phenomenally different from what I went through. I used to weigh 165 pounds. At my lowest, I weighed 138 from
Wow.
all this pain. That's how bad it was. Jenny, you didn't see me when I was at my worst. It
Oh,
was just, it was, it was terrible. Only my family saw me. But I'm telling you, I was a strong man and it almost broke me. But I was, like I say, I didn't want to give up because I knew if I got better, I could enjoy my life again.
yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do. When COVID is over, I'm going to. And I
Well,
hope this message goes to a lot of people
yeah.
and realize that you don't have to accept your pain. Don't listen to people who say manage your pain. You can manage it, but you can get better if you do the right things. And there is the right thing. Don't think that there isn't. There is a right thing. You just have to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Totally. So for someone who, like, let's say doesn't do as much research or didn't do as much research as you did for yourself, um, can you take us through, okay, the steps? So first we need to assess the body to know where your weaker muscles are. And you
Right.
knew that. So the physio had told you that it was your glutes, but the problem was when you came to me, it was that you were overworking it. So you had bands on plus the ankle weights on,
Right, right. Yes. And
which
you're right.
which was
Yes. And
making
that's,
it worse.
yeah. So it's not just knowing first. I mean, there's three steps. The first step is for sure you need to know what's actually wrong. And the way you diagnose people by doing your assessment is what you do. And that's really important. I mean, it's not really important. It's the most important thing because if you can't figure out the problem, you don't know what the solution is. So for sure you have to be able to do that. And number two, the solution isn't just exercise, it's the right exercise, it's activating the muscle, and it's doing the right exercise not only just correctly, but knowing how strenuously to do it. Because because muscles are very, they're very fragile sometimes. And I didn't know how fragile it could be. But if you overdo something, they just have a temper tantrum and they just don't want to work. It's like that. It's like you
You
just
build a
feel like, oh, like this is too much for me. And I think it's when muscles are not healthy, the connection with the brain is not a very good one. And sometimes it just says, I just don't want to function. So you got to really know that was the hardest part for me was figuring out the balance of how to do it, not only correctly, but knowing how much to do it. Sometimes I would try to add a weight and do it, and the results was not good, so I had to go back. So it's kind of like you have to know your own body, and it'll tell you when you've overdone it, but don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when it's bad, the result is bad, it's actually a good thing because it tells you, you listen to your body's telling you you've overdone it, but don't think, oh, it's not the right thing to do. I've been doing this for a long time, and lots of times I kind of overdid it a little bit because I wanted to get better. But when it told me no, I listened to it, and so you have to listen to your body,
Yeah.
and each person's different. Depends on how strong you are, what your muscles are, your age. But don't. That's another thing. Don't let your age deter you. because I'm 67. I'm going to be 67 soon, and I don't feel like 67 right now. I'll tell you that much. I don't at all. I mean, it's phenomenal, and it is only going to get better. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, all that with little glute exercise.
It's yeah. Just think, it just shows you if you do the right thing,
Yeah,
it's amazing what you get. You do the wrong thing, and it's like the difference is so stark. It's kind of scary because but like I say, there is the right thing. There's a solution for most problems.